eagles and donuts. We're going to take we're going to pump the brakes a little bit and discuss how to get multiple constraints working for us and when to keyframe them off and on, in addition to how to keyframe something that is already have a constraint on it. I will prompt the beginning of this talk and lecture with the fact that typically we can rely on offset groups to do a lot of the heavy lifting for what I'm about to demonstrate. That being said, what we can do is still manipulate this stuff, and it's still important to understand how to manipulate this stuff because it is a known fact. I mean, it is a known solved puzzle. So how this stuff functions doesn't have to be a mystery. As long as you know how it works, you can use it to your advantage. And that's the whole point behind this little assignment, okay? So I want to get the birds to grab the donuts and into the barrel. So I'm going to move the bird. I'm going to start with the keyframe there, right? I'll scrub forward in time. Doesn't really matter creatively, time-wise, what we're working on here. We are just trying to get the bird forward to match up with the donut. Set a keyframe. I'm not going to build a constraint yet. I'm trying to get the keyframes on the bird going. I'll go out 120 frames later, bird way off screen, and I can now animate and keyframe these happening with the connections. Remember that when we build a connection, that it's going to build that relationship on the offset at any moment in time that we build it. So if I was to build the connection here at frame 44, so parent, which is the bird, then the donut, constrain parent, and scrub forward, they're maintaining that offset because I have constraining parent options. I have maintain offset on. So just recognize, and I'm going to undo that, right? I'm going to scrub back to frame 40 and build the constraint here with maintain offset on, right? See that? Because now it's maintaining that offset of where they were when I built this constraint. The problem is when I scrub back in time, it takes it with it. So we've got to do some stuff that we've done previously, which is toggle the constraints off and on. The problem here that we're going to run into is that I can do that, right? I can easily do that. I can say, okay, hey, at frame 40, I can right click key selected this under my parent constraint 1, this eagle 4 W0, right? So it's parented the eagle 4. I can, if I select my parent constraint in the outliner, we can actually see the keyframe on our timeline. At frame 40, it's on, and at frame 39, I can turn it off, right? So we've successfully swooped bird in, grabbed donut, and carried donut away. But I want the bird to drop the donut into the bucket. So what I need to do is toggle not only the toggle off this constraint. In fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'll do it at frame like 64 here. I'll right click and say key selected. I'll go one frame forward and toggle it off. But you can see it just snaps back to where it initially was. See that? Let's pop it back over here. I'll grab the manipulator so you can see it a little bit better. So there it is, 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 and there it pops back. So we need to keyframe the donut. But if I set a keyframe, so I'm like, I'm gonna go to frame 64, hit S on the keyboard, I broke my entire constraint, but not really. And if you take a look at what we got, and I'm gonna zoom in up here, we have what's called this blend parent node. What this is a toggle on 0 or 1, 0 meaning it's going to listen to keyframes that we've applied to this, 1 being it's going to listen to constraints. So let's zoom back out. And essentially on frame 40, I'm going to get rid of that keyframe I made, by the way. We're going to build another one. I'm going to go to frame 40. I'm going to hit S on my keyboard. And essentially, I've just set a keyframe at frame 40 saying, hey, I want my donut at those translates and rotate values to maintain there. And very much like I did with my toggle of my constraint on it, I can go to one frame later. And because my blend parent, this node gets created when we create a keyframe. So if you hit S and you don't see it, you're gonna have to hit S again to make sure that it actually gets a keyframe. But if I go one frame forward, and I'm gonna zoom out as I do this, and then zoom in here, and I'm gonna change my blend parent from 0 to 1. Because what I'm telling this donut is, hey, for frames 40 and before, we want that blend parent to be 0, which means you're listening to the keyframes that I've put on this donut. When I selected the donut and I hit S. On frames 41, where I change this to 1, and that my parent constraint is toggled on, we're listening to any constraints that we have rather than keyframes. So if I scroll forward in time, you'll see the issue that we ran into a second ago, where my donut pops back in place. It goes back to where it was. And very simply, I just need a hold keyframe. And I need to get the donut into this position in place and time. It's two separate concepts. Let's talk about one at a time. So at frame 65, I toggle that constraint off. I need to also toggle the blend parent off. So at frame 64, I want to hit S to make sure the blend parent is on. And I'll go to frame 65 and I'll turn the blend parent off. And take a look at that. Our donut has snapped back. And the reason it snapped back is because when I hit S at frame 64, my keyframes, not just the blend parent, but the translates and the rotates and the scales of that object. And so now I'm free to animate my donut falling in however you want to animate it. I'm going to give it a little bit of some rotations on that rotate Z there. But now I've got my donut falling in because it's going to listen. Oh, it's rotating, I think, the wrong way. Yeah, totally. That's okay. I'll make that a negative number. You don't have to be precise here. Negative 720. There we go. So it's just. Okay. So I've disconnected that, right? If you're not making sound effects when you animate, you're doing it wrong. I hate to break it to you. So I've disconnected that here. And when I hit S with that donut in that position, when the parent constraint was still on, I also keyframed its translates and rotate values of where it was at that time. So your challenge, should you choose to accept it, is to get all the birds and all the donuts in. Oh no, I missed. Oh, my donut snapped back somewhere. Where'd it go? There it is. Interesting. I kind of wonder why it did that, but regardless, there we go. I got it going now. And we're good. We nailed it. So your challenge is to get all the birds and the donuts going, get the birds to pick up each donut and into the barrel. There is a little trick to this one, nothing too crazy. But if you're just kind of following along and taking notes for my online people, don't worry about it. Just take notes, make sure you're able to replicate this stuff. And for my in-person people, make sure you go through this and practice this, right? This is just like anything else in life. If you only watch someone else do it and you do not take notes and you do not sit and try to implement those processes yourself, you're not actually learning. You are just watching someone knowing what they're doing. And what you need to do is now implement and apply this so that you can manipulate this as you move forward. Please let me know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, and I'll see you when I see you.